Uh-oh, MAGA is crumbling. The MAGAs are ripping each other's throats out over the war in the Middle East since Israel launched preemptive strikes against Iran, which many MAGA people said they never wanted to happen, that would precipitate World War III. And then you've got like the MAGA neocons who love the war, who are saying, let's go blow up Iran. And they are fighting with each other in public. And it seems that Donald Trump is siding with the neocons, which is a massive betrayal of the vast majority of his MAGA base. And Donald Trump ran on, I promise there won't be World War III. And he would always say, former President Biden's getting you into World War III when Biden was keeping us out of World War III. So now Donald Trump has brought us a trade war against the world. He's brought us isolation from our allies. He's brought us what looks like the beginning potentially of a World War III. He's brought us a recession, a retracting GDP. Basically, everything he accused the other side of, he is doing. Take a look right here. MAGA influencer Charlie Kirk posted the following poll on X, formerly Twitter. About 500,000 people voted in it. And Charlie Kirk said, should the U.S. get involved in Israel's war against Iran? Probably too late to ask that question, because Donald Trump was bragging yesterday morning that he was basically the mastermind behind Israel's strikes against Iran. And Donald Trump said, I warned Iran and I told them we got the best weapons and they didn't listen, and I gave them a deadline. So then I did it. I was the one who struck Iran. That was after Secretary of State Marco Rubio posted, we had no involvement in this. This was a unilateral action by Israel. And it was after Donald Trump posting also on Thursday that he was involved in diplomatic discussions with Iran that was ongoing. They were going to have productive talks on Sunday. So sure, Donald, then in any event, 90% of the voters on this Charlie Kirk poll, should the U.S. get involved in Israel's war against Iran, say no. That's overwhelmingly where the Trump base is. Trump said no World War III, and Trump seems to be precipitating what could be a World War III. Only 10% of the MAGA base, at least in this poll, say that they want the U.S. to get involved in Israel's war against Iran. You can take a look at what Tucker Carlson posted yesterday. Tucker Carlson said, the real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it, between the warmongers and the peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, said, warmonger Trump. On the anti-neocon side of this MAGA equation, you have Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon says, people say this is going to tear MAGA apart. No, it's not. We need this moment, essentially, to see who's really America first and who's still a neocon. Well, I guess based on this equation, Donald Trump would be the neocon, because according to Donald Trump's post earlier yesterday morning, he said he's the brainchild behind the attack on Iran. That's when Donald Trump thought that the attack was so successful and that Iran was completely decapitated and that they weren't going to be able to have the capacity to attack Israel. Then Iran started attacking Israel, and then we saw buildings in Tel Aviv blow up, and then no presidential address from Donald Trump, MIA, missing in action, nowhere to be found. But here's what Steve Bannon said on his show yesterday, attacking the neocon MAGAs. Play this clip.
And I'm not worried. People say, oh, it's going to tear MAGA apart. No, it is not going to tear MAGA apart at all. We may have needed to do this, to decide who's really America first and who's still a neocon. Who's still a neocon. And if I'm hurting your feelings, I'm sorry. Your feelings are going to have to get hurt. And I'm not in the Tucker Carlson, the Kurt Mills. I know those guys well. I respect them a lot. But when you decide to do something and you're going to do it on your own, then do it on your own. If you're going to make that decision, just like Zelensky in this crowd, if you're going to do it, Do it. Don't try to get us sucked into it, because right now, inexorably, I have preached this gospel. Inexorably, we're being drawn into a massive land war, World War III.
And look, Tucker Carlson at least has been consistent on this. As our editor-in-chief said, this seems a bit different than what Trump's been saying. So on March 17, 2025, Tucker Carlson posted the following. It's worth pointing out that a strike on the Iranian nuclear sites will almost certainly result in thousands of American deaths at bases throughout the Middle East and cost the United States tens of billions of dollars. The cost of future acts of terrorism on America's soil may even be higher. Those aren't guesses. Those are the Pentagon's own estimates. A bombing campaign against Iran will set off a war, and it will be America's war. Don't let the propagandists lie to you. And America is involved right now in the war in Iran. How much is this proxy war going to cost us? Donald Trump already has a $1 trillion military budget, which is going to cause our deficit to absolutely skyrocket. How much is this going to cost? Could this lead to American troops being on the ground in Israel? Are American troops already on the ground? We know that we have our ships in position in the Middle East, and we believe the American Air Force is there helping in capacities with the Israeli Air Force. So are we putting American troops right now there? What's going on? Again, Donald Trump missing in action. He's just focused on his dictator parade. What about Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump's compromised Director of National Intelligence, who's in Putin's pocket? This is Tulsi Gabbard from January 2020. We do not seek regime change, Trump declares as he escalates his regime change war against Iran. Neocons like Graham and Bolton are cheering. To all who voted for Trump because of his anti-war rhetoric, it's time to realize he lied to you. Stand with me against Trump's Iran war. Hashtag Trump's war. Tulsi Gabbard 2020. How about MAGA Republican Thomas Massie from June 13th? Israel doesn't need U.S. taxpayer money for defense if it already has enough to start offensive wars. I voted not to fund this war on aggression. And again, our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, wrote, Trump promised MAGA no new wars. Now, remember what Charlie Kirk, MAGA influencer, was saying back all throughout 2024, 2023. This was the MAGA attack on former President Biden. Having campaigned on warning that Donald Trump would start World War III, Joe Biden is now on his third major global conflagration since his disastrous Afghan pullout. How many more will we get in 2024? See, it was actually former President Biden who pulled America out of all wars. There was no wars when former President Biden was in charge. By the way, he had the very difficult removal of troops from Afghanistan after Donald Trump freed the 5,000 Taliban prisoners in Afghanistan, removed American position from military bases, basically had Americans surrounded by the Taliban at one base. And former President Biden, despite Donald Trump, typical taco, Trump always chickens out, right? In 2020, Donald Trump refused to meet his own deadlines and pull the U.S. troops out of Afghanistan after freeing 5,000 Taliban prisoners, terrorist Taliban prisoners, who then went on to invade, all of Afghanistan and take over all of the territory. Former President Biden did the hard work. Yes, it was a tough pullout. Yes, there were casualties. Biden did the hard work, and MAGA attacked him for it forever. And that became a defining part of the attack on MAGA.
Thanks, Ben. I just want to interrupt for a quick minute to talk about the climate, because through all of these distractions, I want to make sure we remain laser focused on this issue. Let's talk about the Trump administration's latest move that could drive your energy bills through the roof. So recently, Trump's Energy Secretary Chris Wright told Congress that the administration opposes the all-of-the-above energy strategy. That's the same approach Republicans have pushed for decades. But instead, they're now embracing an extreme agenda to gut clean energy, just as electricity demand is set to surge across the country. Wright is pushing the new tax bill that would repeal clean energy investments, and the consequences are staggering. If Republicans move forward, energy bills could spike by $110 as soon as next year, and up to $400 within a decade. Just eliminating two key tax credits could lead to a 20% jump in electricity costs alone. Meanwhile, big industries would pay $14 billion more in energy costs by 2035. And let's talk jobs. Trump's attacks on clean energy have already stalled or killed over 140 projects, threatening nearly 92,000 announced jobs. Full repeal would cost 700,000 American jobs over the next 10 years. So the question is, will Republicans side with working families or keep raising your energy costs to hand out tax breaks to billionaires? I want to hear what you think about all this, so make sure to let me know in the comments. We'll make sure we continue to cover these important climate issues here at MeidasTouch. Now back to you, Ben.
Remember when Charlie Kirk back on April 13, 2024, and I could find you hundreds of posts like this, would make things like posts like this about Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, Trump goes, I will prevent World War III. I will end the war in Ukraine immediately. Even before I'm sworn in as president, I will stop the war. Here, play this clip.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we win the presidency, it's we. I will have the horrible war. That's right. I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine totally settled. I will settle it, and I will and I'm the only one that can say this because these other people have no clue. I will prevent World War III.
He lies about everything. But on Fox, yesterday you had Charlie Kirk voicing his opposition to the U.S. Involvement in the war between Israel and Iran. Here's what he has to say. Play this clip.
I think overwhelmingly Americans stand with Israel. The question is, do they support America getting offensively involved in this war? And I can say definitively, especially with younger Trump supporters, the answer is no. They want to have Israel fight Israel's war, to stand with Israel, intelligence sharing, defensive measures, totally defensible, and I think is legitimate because over 100,000 Americans, as Trey said, are in Israel. And America and Jordan have a long history of having defensive measures to protect civilians. But the question will be in the coming days and weeks, will there be clamoring for an offensive American strategy against Iran? Will some people say, hey, we can finally wipe them out. We have them on the ropes. I would introduce a little bit of caution towards that, especially from a younger generational perspective. One of the main reasons we were able to get young people to vote for President Trump so overwhelmingly this last election was a reminder that President Trump is the peace president, that President Trump is able to broker the impossible peace deals. Look what he did the other day between India and Pakistan. Look at what he did in his first term. And so I do believe that President Trump is uniquely positioned here to stand with our allies, to stand on the side of civilization, but also understand that his voters, they want to return to America first, to stand with what is right and just in the world. But we do not want a potential endless quagmire in the Middle East. And I'm confident President Trump will make sure that does not happen.
Well, then you have General Sean Hannity of the Neocon Brigade rallying the troops for escalation and prepping them for heavy U.S. involvement. It's Iraq and WMDs all over again on state regime media known as Fox. Who knew we were getting a third Bush term? Here's what Sean Hannity had to say. Play the clip.
What about if they continue to target, Aaron, if they continue to target civilians the way they are, meaning the Iranians, to me, all bets are off. You know, that means that would give license to Israel to take out their refineries and any other target they want.
And then you have Mark Levin, who wrote yesterday, rather than hang their heads in shame for the lies and distortions they have spewed, the isolationists are now desperately attacking the president, real MAGA, and the brave Israelis. They claim to be the leaders of MAGA, the influencers, the new thinkers, and whatever BS they come up with. They are a cabal of reprobates, dumb as they come, and dangerous as hell. Ron Filipkowski, our editor-in-chief, goes, America first, no new wars. MAGA and Neocon proxy war. MAGA are having a day, the MAGA civil war. Our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, also wrote, it appears that we are actively and directly involved in a major conflict between Israel and Iran, which is rapidly escalating, and the only thing we have heard from the administration is an obviously false denial from Secretary of State Rubio and a Truth Social post from Donald Trump. And we haven't really heard anything else. No presidential address, nothing that you would expect. Then you have Ted Cruz going on Fox and saying, this is a favor. Israel's doing America a favor. Here, play this clip.
And Israel is doing a favor to America right now by taking out Iran's nuclear capacity. We don't know how this is going to end up, but a nuclear Iran would be a profound threat to Israel and a profound threat to America. And so my prayers tonight are to every Israeli and every American in harm's way tonight, that God will keep them safe and that we will stand strong to prevent a nuclear Iran that could commit vast acts of mass murder.
Then you've got MAGA Republican Congressmember Mass saying, "Thank you, Israel." Play this clip.
If we see this as a threat of war, we mean a nuclear act of war. We can't let Iran get to that point. And thank you, Israel, for making sure that they're not going to have a nuclear response.
You've got MAGA Republican Lindsey Graham, who says, "Game on," like this is like a fun game. Pray for Israel. Our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, says, "It's not a game, dipshit." Remember when Donald Trump was posting those videos of himself and Netanyahu in AI form, Trump Gaza? Remember Donald Trump said that he was going to take over Gaza, and he and Netanyahu were going to be sipping martinis in Gaza. That's what Donald Trump posted. Well, things are getting a little real now, aren't they, Donald? Multiple clips of Donald Trump here during the campaign saying that he would prevent World War III. Let's play this clip.
Speaking of World War III, I'll keep you out of World War III. What would happen if we had a war? We won't, with me, but you will have World War III, I believe, without me, but we won't have. I will be sure that World War III will not happen. I'm the only one can say it won't happen. But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily.
You have MAGA Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, saying Israel is right and has a right to defend itself. As my brother Brett says, these people seem to just love war. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, said, Trump promised no new wars and to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. At least we aren't spending another billion losing drones and jets bombing a few Houthis in Yemen. So there's that. Jennifer Griffin of Fox, the international correspondent, says, from Iran state-run media, Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the aggressive actions of the Zionist regime against Iran could not have been carried out without coordination and approval of the United States. Thus, the U.S. government, as the main supporter of this regime, will be held responsible for the dangerous consequences of Israel's adventurism. Our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, writes, it sounds a lot like the tearing MAGA apart, because the Bannon purity test for MAGA is different than Trump's position on this, and there are many who will agree with Trump no matter what and are 100% pro-Israel no matter what they do. So it's tearing them apart more than the Elon thing. The MAGA civil war is in full effect. Tell me what you think in the comments below. We're on our way to 5 million subscribers. Help us get there. Thank you for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.